to them. The questionnaire response, however, came with a surprise. The surprise was that the mothers copied the baby books of their nurse daughters and their birth certificates. And we were suddenly deluged with a lot of data to review, but highly corroborative and validating data when you think about a baby book. These nurses were born in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Anyone who know about that era, our mothers had baby books. And so we were able to actually corroborate my mother's responses to the data from the baby books to actually have a richness of data that we never thought we would have. They also sent their birth certificates, which was astronomical to us. So there we were in the bowels of Harvard School of Public Health, analyzing and reviewing all the data. And so we asked the mothers all about these early life exposures of the nurse, but we could corroborate with their own data. Okay, and this cohort design we call an ambidirectional cohort design, prospective and retrospective. All right, so let's talk a little bit about in utero exposures and agent menarche of the nurse. In utero exposures can come from the mother's data. The agent menarche, again, comes from the nurse having reported this information on biannual questionnaire. I'm going to tell you that physical activity in pregnancy delays the agent menarche, and gestation weight gain is associated with early menarche. So in the first set of data, we used in the mother's questionnaire, Barbara Ainsworth had developed a validated questionnaire of physical activity in pregnancy. She had one for work, one for home, and one for leisure. And we used this questionnaire. Now in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, most of the mothers were housewives. They stayed at home, so we didn't have much data on physical activity in work, but we had a lot of data about home and leisure type physical activity. We stratified it into the 5 categories that Ainsworth has based on responses to the questionnaire by the mother. And then here we calculated the average age of menarche of the nurse daughters of women who were inactive, and compared it to the average age of menarche of those who are mostly inactive, active, mostly active, and highly active, and subtracted it. So what you're seeing is the subtendent of that, all right? And with increasing physical activity in pregnancy, you see 1 month and then a 3-month delay in age at menarche. Now these data were analyzed by Lisa Colbert, and we adjusted for everything in God's green earth in these data to try and not see it, and yet it remained. But if you think about 3 months in a secular trend of age at menarche, we're actually talking about a very long period of time in that secular trend. We're talking about a 25-year period in the United States. So imagine if we could translate this information up to women now, saying if you're active in pregnancy, you could delay the age at menarche of your daughter, which is a risk factor for breast cancer. It's kind of a neat thing. Anyway, let's talk about gestation weight gain. Again, when the 40s, 50s, and 60s, Eastman was a lead obstetrician in the United States at the time. He advocated every woman would gain between 20 and 25 pounds, no more, no less, and women would follow that. So our reference in this is the women who gain between 20 and 29 pounds, right here. And what we see is the odds of early menarche, meaning menarche before 11 years of age, and we see about a 31% increased odds for those who gain less than 10 pounds, and about a 27% increased odds of early menarche if they gain more than 40 pounds. Again, these data are adjusted for a multitude of factors. So then let's turn the dial now on in utero exposures and early life exposures and obesity of the nurse daughter. And here we're going to look at mother's pre-pregnancy BMI and the signal from TV viewing and physical activity. So what we see here is maternal pre-pregnancy BMI with a median category of 21 is the leanest, 23, 25, 27, 29. And then the odds of the daughter being overweight or obese at age 18. And what you can clearly see from the odds ratios is that there's an increasing risk of being overweight or obese with increasing pre-pregnancy BMI of the mother. So the signal is incredibly strong for the mothers who had a pre-pregnancy BMI of 29 and have a 3-fold or almost a 6-fold increased odds of their daughters being in those categories by age 18. Next, recently had a student, Muna Tahir, who took the maternal reported data of TV viewing and physical activity at 3 to 5 and 5 to 10 years of age. She then took the nurse self-reported overweight and obese data based on the standard somatotypes that were provided to the nurses to identify which image was associated with them at age 5 and age 10, and then reported data for actual weight and height at age 18 and adulthood. And any somatotype at 5 or greater was considered overweight. And what Muna did was she looked at the independent effects of each one of these, TV viewing and then physical activity, on obesity across the life course, using the somatotypes for 5 and 10 years and the BMI at 18 and adulthood. And compared to those who had no TV viewing as our reference group across the life course, if there was 2 hours of TV viewing, 3 or 4 or more at ages 5 and 10, you had an increasing risk of overweight or obesity based on these standard images. And if you had, the signal persisted then for those with 4 or more hours of TV viewing at age 18 and in adulthood. Now bear in mind, there weren't any computers, there weren't any other sources of sedentary activity going on at this point. This is the time when Borden's was the advertisement on TV, and we were watching black and white TV, right? Okay, so then we developed a composite score, and this composite score was one of those who actually had 2 hours or less of TV and were highly active or active as our reference group. Those had 3 or more hours of TV and were highly active or active, compared to 2 or less hours of TV and mostly inactive, or what I call the couch potatoes, 3 hours or more of TV and mostly inactive. And what you can see here when we look at this composite of both TV viewing and physical activity, that our couch potato girls are clearly at increased risk of even self-identifying themselves as heavier at 5 and 10 years of age by threefold, almost threefold. And the signal persists for actual BMI at age 18 and adulthood. Okay. So, from the nurse's mother's study, I've given you a glimpse of some of the windows of susceptibility and at timely matters, because maternal physical activity in pregnancy actually delays menarche among the daughters. Maternal extremes of gestation weight gain accelerate menarche. Maternal pre-pregnancy BMI is directly associated with obesity risk by age 18. And the daughter's TV viewing and low physical activity send a persistent signal for obesity across the life course. Okay, I've got about, 10, 15 minutes? Something like that? Okay, let me quickly go through some methodological research. We all know we get into methods, epidemiologists. Some of the methods are going to be statistical, some of them are going to be design. In this case, we've been suffering from the fact that we all measure recumbent length in children, and it's a mess. Not only is it a mess trying to get, and by the way, because this baby is happy, it's not being measured right, right? You know this. This baby should be crying because its head should be held, its body should be straight, its legs should be pushed down, and its heels should be tickled so that we're pressing on this board to get the exact recumbent length. It's not crying, it's not done right. That's what I tell all my students, okay? But the real issue is that when you go in the field and you do this research, and these infantometers didn't always look so nice. They looked like coffins to mothers in different cultures. We face tremendous problems in measuring recumbent length in little babies. So a couple of us had an idea. We looked at all the bones in the body, and we said, which bone or bones might be a surrogate for recumbent length? We come up with the for various and sundry reasons, which is the long bone in your arm, lower arm, and we developed a paper grid. Take a graph paper, put colors, rainbow colors on it, so the baby will like it. And we compared it to measurement by calipers. So this is the different processes at the end of the ulnar. We perform recumbent length accurately, which meant that we did it as the last one of our measurements every time on every baby. And we also just used a simple ruler could we use a ruler in a field and make this easier? And what we had, this was part of the National Children's Day, the formative research, was that we assessed whether ulnar length could serve as a surrogate for recumbent length and height by one of 3 simple tools. And so this was a cross-sectional study out of 8 centers, including North Carolina, by the way, of 1,400 or more children under 6 years of age. So tremendous variation of race, ethnicity. What I was trying to do here was actually capture data in Hispanics and Chinese Americans where we don't have any growth data in the United States. So why not while we're in the field? And then we had very good variation in age group, but I did want, as you can see, mostly those infants in our study. And we had about 50% boys and girls. Okay, so to get you an idea, ULC is ulnar length circumference, ruler and grid, and these are the Pearson correlations, 0.9, 0.85, 0.86, 0.98 with recumbent length. We're not doing badly with our measurements. We stratified by sex and so forth in our paper. We created several models, and these models were to predict the variation in recumbent length. And what we saw basically was that actually in boys and in girls, so we stratified by, I only have the boys here, but we really saw a tremendous amount, 95%, 95%, and 92% variation in recumbent length explained by these models. And these models were basically trying to emphasize the ulnar calipers, ruler and grid. And so we actually have demonstrated an alternate method. We've used it in other studies. The paper grid works with a baby who is breastfeeding, where we just take the arm from the baby while the baby's breastfeeding and get the measurement. No crying. Stop go. So we have been exploring the use of this across different cultures in the world because we think we have a good surrogate. And so let me just end by summarizing, saying to you, timing does matter with windows of susceptibility in pregnancy, and puberty in the index daughter. Preeclampsia delays breast development, but accelerates pubic hair development by 13 years. Physical activity from the nurse's mother study delays menarche, physical activity in pregnancy. Extremes of gestation wean gain increase the odds for early menarche. And we saw this incredible persistent signal in TV viewing and low physical activity are couch potatoes on the signal for risk of obesity across the life course. At this time, it takes a village to do this research. We all know. None of us do this alone. Here are the groups who are involved in this research. Many of these are students of mine, Yayi, Radia, Lisa, Rose, Young, Jeremy, Christine, and Ingvild, and so on and so forth, and the team from the mother study as well. And I'll take questions. Any questions? Yes.
Great presentation. I really enjoyed it. Your mom-daughter obesity findings were very interesting to me. I was wondering if there's any available data. Have you thought about looking at any biological mechanisms, maybe immune function or things that might be going on in inflammation that could explain that?
Well, because this was retrospective, no, we couldn't do this, unfortunately. But that would be a great opportunity for someone to do a dissertation. It really needs to be done. There's no question about that. Get the molecular pathways. Good question. Anybody else? Yes.
It's a great presentation. That sparked lots of ideas. But one of the things that occurs to me is that the daughters and sons of your moms that had preeclampsia are probably having their own kids at this point that are approaching puberty. And so thinking of this like transgenerational,
yes.
I'm wondering if you've considered the idea of going after I guess it would be the third generation.
It's a great idea. And I think what we need to do, because the Norwegian colleagues that I've had have all retired. So we're in a situation where it would be Christine Ryberg, who did these beautiful growth curves, who we need to contact. She's an MD PhD now. Yay, Christine. And I really think we would need to engage her, and I think we could. She's still in Stavanger. So if you're interested in something like that, we should do it another generation, and really find out what's going on. It's a great idea. Anybody else?
I have a question about interventions. Like, it just feels to me like there's got to be tons of interventions that can be done. Like, do you work in that area at all? Or is that
So I've done some randomized trials and some interventions research. The problem and the questions that are challenged as epidemiologists is really the fidelity of the intervention when we get to the community. It's a big problem that we have. It's not a little one. And when it comes to diet, for example, unless we're using a magic bullet or a big supplement like we did in the vitamin A trials, I don't know if we can maintain that fidelity of the intervention. I think that just the data on the TV, the couch potato kids, should really be assessed now, because the computer, your kid could be standing up and doing Y and whatever else, the weed and all the other stuff that's going on that might not be the same way. But we do really need to know first what this